With Saturday highs in the mid 70s, I could not pass up a chance to get outdoors and enjoy the weather. A few minutes before 5 a.m., I was on the road, bound for Norfolk Southern Rails in central North Carolina. After hearing Amtrak 20 was leaving its station stop in High Point, I decided to locate to downtown Jamestown. A few minutes later, here came Amtrak 20 on its northbound run with stops in Greensboro, Washington, D.C., and New York on today's slate. After Amtrak cleared, it was time for the best catch of the day, a couple of deer switching from Main 1 to Main 2 in downtown Jamestown. After the sun had rose, I made the 15-mile trip south to Thomasville. Yeah, that high green I missed in Jamestown was for Amtrak 80. Luckily, I made it to Thomasville in just the nick of time to catch it absolutely hauling the mail through town. By 8 a.m., the morning parade had just begun. Next up was Norfolk Southern Train 27A on its way to Atlanta, Georgia. To throw a little splash of color in the mix, here came Amtrak 71 with NCDOT's 30th anniversary unit in charge of the southbound run. A few minutes after 71 cleared, next on the list was Norfolk Southern Train 28N with intermodal traffic for Charlotte. To cap off an unbelievable morning rush, here came NS 118 with a great consist of UP and NS units. About an hour later, here we see Amtrak 72 on its return trip to Raleigh, making the northbound run through Thomasville. When an entire district goes cold midday, what do? Well, you move to another one. In our case, the obvious choice was to ditch the Danville district and go farther south to the Piedmont division in Salisbury. And just like that, the rails of the Piedmont division were hot, as both the northbound and southbound signals displayed high greens. How about another parade? First up was Amtrak 73. With the traction motors of the lead Tier 4 GEVO screaming, next up was Hotshot Intermodal Train 24X. One town north of Salisbury is Spencer, which is home to North Carolina's Transportation Museum. Today's excursion is led by Southern Railway 6133, an EMD FP7 built in May of 1950. And in 2026, it is still performing the same passenger duties it was built to originally perform, decades later. Now, back to what we came to see. Here we see NS-12R slowly crossing the Yadkin River as it's entering Linwood Yard. Before 12R could enter the yard, NSP-60 would pull out of Linwood Yard on its way to Statesville. Now, back in Salisbury, the green signal onto the Asheville district is displayed as P60 diverges to head towards western North Carolina. After finishing up at the Salisbury station, here was Amtrak 74 with one of NCDOT's F-59 PHIs in the lead. Next up was NS-28R, another one of those no doubt about it hotshot intermodals. Welcome to Linwood Yard, the heartbeat of Norfolk Southern's operations in North Carolina. The constant activity in Linwood is obvious. Here we see NS 135 building its train. Do those engines look familiar? Here's the power we saw on 118 earlier in the day, awaiting their next assignment. A look to the left and we see an NS local leaving out of the yard, as well as a cut of cars being shuttled from one end of the yard to the other by two NS Jeeps. About an hour later, we moved north to High Point to check if any operations were underway. The activity on the rails seemed to have stalled as we entered the last few minutes of daylight. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.